Oh, hi. Hello. Hi. Welcome. Hello. Thanks for joining us. Look at that. We're all here together. We did it. Good stuff. Hi, everybody. Um, it's been like a million years since we talked to each other. It's been just way too long. It's been a million. Oh, gosh, I cannot tell you how tired I am. Just it's been a very busy month. Hi. Hello, everybody. Look at that. I should. You know what I should do? I should totally log in to the chat on my. See, I'm not even in practice. I've forgotten what it's like to do this. Let's see here. Joining. No, it's wrong. Yeah, Wow. So okay. So where are we? I don't even know. Last time we talked, I was at Spring One, which is oh my goodness, so good, everybody. That was like that's the reason for the season, was that amazing experience. If you missed it, I'm really sorry. I did my level-headed best to bring you there, and by having like constant live streams, I'm sure some of you perhaps got more than you bargained for that week. But yeah, like it was a lot of fun, great fun. You really had to be there. I cannot tell you how good it was just to be there and to hang out with amazing people, to learn, to see all these amazing people that I've so longed to see for so very long. Um, but yeah, there was that. That was great. And then then I thought, okay, I got to get out of Vegas. Vegas is great for a little while. The Strip in Vegas, Las Vegas, is a dizzying cacophony of sensory overloading experiences. Right, it is quite something. And I was there basically because I was in the keynote. So I was there like a few days earlier, basically, to help get everything going. So I was there actually 7 days total, and by the end of it, I was just, oh wow, yeah, I needed to like get the heck out of there. It's just because you're stuck in the hotel, right? It's 7 days in this giant citywide like hotel, and there's no. It's so disorienting. They have artificial light and artificial night in the casino, and so if you're not careful, if you don't like take time to actually like leave the casino, you can become very sort of disoriented. You can lose track of time and so on. Um, but anyway, I left at 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday, and then I flew back to San Francisco and packed my daughter up, and her mom and I and her grandmother, who's in town, we all drove, in two cars. My kid has a car now. She's got a license and she can drive, and we drove her um, down to start her life in college, basically. And that was, oh goodness, that was obviously it's for the better, but I really miss her. Um, and then wow, and then as if that wasn't enough, I've had just back-to-back meetings both for the first 2 days of this week. So it's just been, oh no, sorry, yesterday, not 2 days. Monday I was still driving back. It was a holiday in the U.S., so I wasn't working anyway. But yesterday we had meetings, and so now here we are. I'm just, and by the way, like leading up to all of that, leading up to Spring One was, of course, the endless stream of rehearsals and meetings and all that. But then right before that, I was in Asia for 2 months. So I feel like I've just been on this like treadmill for months, and just very happy to be here at home, relaxed. Good to see you. One of the best parts of being in Vegas, my friends, is, well, like I said, it's the people. It really is. That's my favorite thing. It's the hallway track. You go to these conferences, obviously, so you can learn, and I look forward to that. By the by, is Simon here? Hey, buddy, Simon's here. I saw you've got a thing at was it DevOps Belgium, I think. So that's great. One of our frequent one of our, I don't know, the chat. One of the frequent and very helpful people in the chat here is going to be speaking at DevOps Belgium. Congratulations! I can't wait to meet you in person. So congrats. But yeah, one of the best things about Spring One is you get to meet these amazing people, and I am really excited about that, right? Because I'm a big fan of the Spring Teams, open rewrite. Oh, that's going to be good. I quite like open rewrite. That's a nice piece of tech. So I like the Spring team, and I one of the things, we had this great discussion with Steve Reisenberg on this very channel, like in May, before that whole roller coaster began. We had this discussion with Steve Reisenberg in May, where we set up an authorization server, the new Spring Authorization Server. The video was really cool. It's one of the best performing videos on my channel, actually, and the reason is because it demystifies so much about using. No, I'm not in Vegas. I'm home, but it demystifies so very much about using Spring and OAuth. It shows you how to use Spring Security's OAuth client support for OIDC login. It shows you how to use the resource server support, so you can act as a filter to reject requests that don't have a valid JOT token in the body or in the headers. And then it shows how to use the Spring Authorization Server to stand up your own, Spring Boot powered identity provider, or IDP. It was just really, 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 really good. And I love that. And I was so enamored with that particular experience and watching Steve work his magic that I've now deployed the authorization server into my own cluster. I have my own uses of it, right? And so it's easy enough to use the Spring Authorization Server with other web services. This makes a lot of sense. This is very natural. It's the built-in default flow. It's what you see when you Google Spring Security and OAuth and so on. But the question that lingered for me is, what about the headless sort of back office style applications? What does that look like, and in particular, like, what if I'm doing Spring Batch, or just a something that would be in a cron job, for example, or if I'm doing something with Spring integration. And if you've seen this channel before, I love both Spring integration, Spring Batch. I love back office stuff just as much as I love front office stuff, or front end stuff. That's not a word, front office. I love front end stuff. So I love the APIs. I love endpoints. I love everything that the client connects to. But I also love the stuff that sort of just gets done in the background, the sort of inglorious but amazing and very important stuff that powers so much of the modern systems that we work with today, right? And so, which batch talk? Batch talk. I'm assuming that you're talking about a batch talk that maybe Manila gave or something. I don't know. Mahmoud. Are you talking about the one with Mahmoud Benassine, the lead of Spring Batch? Because that was a great interview. I love Mahmoud. That guy is so smart. Anyway, all that to say, I love these technologies, but I did kind of wonder, what does it look like to use the authorization server with them? Because there's no endpoint. It's not you can't do the standard three-legged OAuth redirect flow, right? What I want to do is I want to have a JOT token. I want to send it in to the request chain, and then validate that I have a valid JOT token before I allow the messaging to continue. And so OAuth actually does have a way to do this. It's called client credentials, and it's basically just username and password, right? But so instead of doing the three-legged OAuth flow, you skip that. You just the client sends the username and password. They get back a JOT token, and then that is what you send into the messaging flow. Why would you do this instead of just having your own bespoke thing? If you've already got the authorization server, it's just one more bit of configuration. It's easy. So that's the theory, right? Just use client credentials, get the token, then somehow validate that. The question then is, how do you validate it? How do you make sure that nothing happens in Spring integration unless there's a valid JOT token? And that, my friends, is kind of what I'm hoping to explore today. I actually have the answer. We're going to get to an answer by the end of the stream. It's just a matter of how graceful I'll be in that pursuit. And the reason I was able to get this answer, again, was because I got to hang out at Spring 1. And so I pinned down Rob Winch, the rarest Pokemon. By the way, he did a live stream with me. I'm telling you, the guy is like allergic to photos and media. He's done talks in the public before, of course, but he's notoriously squirmy when it comes to like being on unrecorded anything. And so the fact that he's like, hey, I'll do a live, I just It's like the coolest thing ever. It was. I was just so glad he was on the show. If you missed that, well, you know, you might have been asleep. That's okay. But if you're here now and you still are missing it, shame on you. Shame on you. That's a hard get, that interview. So go watch that. But then, but not now. Watch this first, because we're gonna have some fun. So I got Rob Winch there, but he's the lead of Spring Security. He knows all things security, but his Spring integration foo is not so strong. I have a little bit of, I have a pretty good understanding, not great, certainly nothing like his understanding of Spring security, and I have a pretty good understanding of Spring integration. But again, the reason that this worked is I was also able to get Artem Bilan, the lead of Spring integration. So I grabbed both of them. I said, okay, gents, I need to figure this out. What do we do? What are we doing here? Because I actually even had something that was kind of working, and they refactored it with me. It was great. So we're gonna go and see what that refactored code looks like. But bearing in mind, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm just parroting smart people here. So if you have really tough questions, go ahead and ask them. I'll queue them up for later and probably get you some answers. But otherwise, let's just jump right into it, huh? Okay, so share my screen. Entire screen. Nice. Okay. So first thing first, I guess we need an authorization server. So I'll just go back and I'll get the code from the authorization server. When did we create this? Yeah, May 26th. That was 1,000,000 years ago. 1,000,000 years ago. It was so long ago. I cannot even tell you. This feels like it must have been like a whole other year. I mean, the summer's almost over, but the summer was just beginning here. My kid was about to graduate high school, and now she's already started college. Just to give you an idea of how incredibly long ago this was to me in my head. I can't tell you. So, okay, so we're gonna go here. Downloads, git clone. Okay. Let's see. So we got that code. Okay, so yes, okay, so code's here. We're gonna revive this so that we have the authorization server. So I've got the auth server, and again, the auth server is a full OAuth IDP, right? So basically, if you want to do have a central place where you keep the where you have the ability to do authorization for users in your system, this is what you would want, right? Now this doesn't necessarily do authentication. In our case, it's going to, because we're going to teach it about a list of users and passwords. But normally you would have the authorization server, and the authorization server would in turn talk to something else, right? The authorization server's job is to give you tokens on behalf of that. It's delegated authentication, right? Or authorization, I mean. So it says, okay, so here we go. Here's this. Idea build.gradle. It's even using 3.1. I mean, it might be using 3.0. It's that old. This code is like 3 months old now. So who knows if it'll even compile. Look at that. I'm downloading stuff. This is not a good sign. Oh dear. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, let's see what we got here. We got Spring Boot. It's so easy to use. I love this. Source compatibility. Where's my is it right there? 3.1 right there, straight right in my face. Okay, so it's 3.1. So let's see, start.spring.io. What's the current latest and greatest? 3.13. Copy all this stuff here. Okay. I want to add GraalVM as well. I use the latest and greatest because I can. GraalVM. I want the resource. No, I want the authorization server as well, don't I? And that's it. That's the thing that's nice about this is you just go here, just authorization server, GraalVM support, no problem. Works a charm with native. Okay, there we go. Just the same exact code. I just updated it to use the new latest and greatest. Let me re-import that. Command-Shift-I. Okay. And we're going to create a user. Okay. So here's the original code that we had from 3 months ago. What is this? This sets up a client. Okay. It's called client 1, very original. And I've given it a name of type client. Now, you can call these clients whatever you want, but I'm just going to call it client 1 because I'm lazy. And I'm going to call this, CSAI, right? That's Coffee Software Enterprise Application Integration. Okay, that's the client ID. And then the secret has to be a password. And you can actually get a password. It has to be bcrypt, right? So you can use the Spring command line, Spring encode password, right? Let's see if that works. Spring help. Let me see. Okay. Spring. Oh, this is the. Oh, this is different. This is not the. I did something interesting. Spring. It's the Spring. Okay, hold on. Let me. So I don't accidentally leak everything. I'm going to stop my screen for just a second. Woo, okay. I have to change an environment variable, and that might be in a file with other. There you go. Okay, I've got two CLIs on the computer that are both called Spring. Isn't that great? That's fun. That'll cause chaos and confusion, but it does make things fun. Okay, so here we go. Present, share screen. Here we go. Let's see. Okay, so we're back here. We've got this here. PB copy, close that, CD this, and then Spring encode password. This is the one you get if you just do, I think, brew, right? Brew search Spring or something like that. This is the Spring Boot tap, right? If you do the Spring IO tap Spring Boot and then install Spring, what is it? Spring Boot. Something. This one, just install that. I think that's the one. Anyway, it's a CLI. So if I go here, I can say Spring encode password. Actually, which Spring is this? Let's just try that. Yeah, it's Homebrew. It's Spring. It's the. I don't know how I installed it, but I'm pretty sure I just got it in Homebrew. So Spring encode password, coffee software. Right, that's my password. Or no. Let's just make it a little bit easier. CSEAI. Okay, that's the password. So there's the encoded thing. I'm going to copy that verbatim, not verboten. It's not illegal. I'm going to paste that in here. It gives me this. So go back to there. And so what we want to do is we want to have a user and a client ID and a secret. We also need authentication mechanisms or methods, right? So client secrets. Basic, that's fine. We want the grant types. This is where things get interesting. All we care about is client credentials. We don't need the other ones. This is going to be an offline, headless kind of thing, right? Then we want there's no redirect URIs because of course there's no endpoints, right? We're not going to actually set up a web service, so we don't need that. The scopes are kind of interesting. This, we're going to actually we're not going to use these scopes, so it doesn't really matter. But everything else we're going to leave as is. This is require authorization consent. No. Trace, sure. Okay, so this is just us installing a user, client via YAML and property files and whatever. You can actually there's a Java repository that you can actually use. I think it's called client repository. Let me just try it. You go here. By the way, isn't that amazing? Look at that. There's our two users. Users JLong, password is PW. So basically what's going to happen is I am going to have a Spring integration job. It's going to act as the client. It's going to authenticate with this IDP and translate that into a, well, it doesn't actually, I don't even know if it needs this actually, because it doesn't have a user context, does it? Right? So it might work without this. We could try it, but I'll leave it in for now because it doesn't really all that much matter. But anyway, if you wanted to store the client repository, registered client repository, I think that's it, right? So what does this do? Joe Granja, registered client. So, secret should be, secret information should be, sensitive information should be encoded externally from the implementation, e.g. from register client, get client secret. Save this register client. What does that do? It's got the information like the client ID, the client secret, client name, redirect URIs, the scopes. Exactly. So this is the thing that stores the stuff that we just put in the property file. So you can actually write a Java version. And then, for example, JDBC registered client repository. You can actually use this to persist everything in the database, right? Again, I'm not going to do that here, but it's easy enough. You just inject the JDBC template, right? JDBC template. I don't even have the JDBC template on the class path, but if I did, I could use that to then persist everything in my database, okay? So, but for now, I'm just sourcing the client information from this configuration. It's fine. This is one way, okay? You know what the password is, although I've now since forgotten. What was the password? What did we actually put in there? CSEAI, okay? Gotta remember, it's exactly the same thing. So this is terribly insecure. Don't do this, okay? This is just for our demo today. It's between us friends. Don't tell anybody my password. It's just wrong. And Rob Winch will be so upset. So we have our client now. And what we want to do is let's just start it up, I guess. I guess that's the first thing. I'm not even sure if we need this. Let's try making this thing work once with this here, and then we'll try removing it, because in this case, there's no user context. We're acting as a headless batch job, right? So this is running on port 8080. So our auth server is on 8080, which means that if we were to start up another microservice that had an HTTP endpoint, it should not start on 8080, okay? Okay, so that's up and running. Now, let's build our integration flow. And this is where things get interesting, and this is why I'm so glad I was able to get Rob and Artem to help me out. Okay, so it's Spring integration. We're going to use the resource server APIs, but we're not creating a resource server, but we want the types and the class path because we need some of that code there. We need Spring security. Let's see. Oh, hey, thank you, Satish. That's really, really great. Thank you very much for the kind. I just realized lots of nice messages. Good morning, good afternoon, hello, 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 and hello again. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna use Spring integration, Spring security, the resource server. Okay. All that is pretty straightforward, right? Beautiful. EAI. No, CSEAI. Okay, Office Software Enterprise Application Integration. So what else do we need? I'm not sure if we need any other dependencies. We probably need the Spring Integration Security module. So we'll go ahead and hit generate. Okay, by the way, it is the 19th of August. So I think that means that if you don't include today, there are 19 more days until Java 21, people. 19 more days. So when I was just showing you all that JDBC stuff, and I'm showing you the Spring MVC-based HTTP authorization server and all that, just remember, that'll soon, Project Loom will make that like basically free to use. Just using blocking IO won't be a bottleneck anymore. So if you have, it's going to be so good. I can't wait. I'm using in-memory, which is fast, but soon you'll be able to use JDBC and not worry about any blocking. And remember, the authorization server is the beating heart of all your systems, right? All your users, all your different microservices, all of them will talk to the authorization server. So it really needs to be as scalable as possible. I showed you in that original video with Steve that you can actually easily connect another microservice. You can delegate authentication to the authorization server. And today we're going to see how you can do it from your messaging code. But the point is, if you do it right, and I'm still doing it, to be fair, I'm still in the middle of it. This is one of those hurdles that now that I have the recipe for it, I'll just be able to take that going forward and work on things. But it's one of those things where if you do it right, everything is now authenticated against the same authorization server. So what you don't want is for your authorization server to fail, because then everything else is sort of blocked. So there are lots of knobs and levers that you can manipulate to scale out the authorization server, right? And one of those is persistence. You can actually store things in a SQL database, spin up, like I said, for the client, the registered client repository, that kind of stuff. There are implementations of all these different APIs that you can use and same thing for Spring Session, right? That you can use to store things in a SQL database or something else, right? You can, in theory, you could use any repository you wanted. You can just write your own, for example. That means that the data will endure. It'll persist even after you've restarted the authorization server, or even if one of them is failing. Now you can have 10 of them and they all have the same state in essence, right? Which is good. It means it's easy to scale this thing out. Okay, so we got the integration, all resource server, Spring security. Did we already hit generate? I think we did. No, downloads. Okay. UAO CSEAI. Okay. No, you know what? I'm not. RM CSEAI. I want to do. What's a great name? Integration. Secure integration. There, that seems more clear. Okay. I'm rethinking even the client, Okay. So, like I said, we've got everything except for Spring Integration Security. Oh, it actually brought it in. That's neat. Look at that. So we got Spring Integration Security because it knew we needed Spring Integration Security because we have both Spring Integration and Spring Security. I reckon that this probably would have brought in Spring Boot Starter Security as well automatically, but it doesn't really hurt to have it doubly enumerated here. And let's just create a simple flow, okay? So remember, I don't even know what we went like. This is not a tutorial in Spring Integration, but I suppose it's worth reintroducing it. Spring Integration is a technology that allows you to handle integration flows, to handle the integration of disparate systems and services and data. And it's based on the principles set forth in the seminal tome by Gregor Hoppe and Bobby Wolf called Enterprise Integration Patterns from like 2004. Real page turner, one of my favorite books. It's like 1,000 pages. And yeah, so there's that. So let's just see it in action, okay? So configuration, class integration, configuration. And the idea, the book, by the way, the book talks about 4 integration styles, right? You've got shared database, you've got file synchronization, right? You've got RPC, you have messaging. So shared database is kind of icky. If you can avoid it, you will, right? You don't want to the idea is that one process puts data in a SQL database and the other one consumes it. Okay, I guess it's very much not in vogue anymore, and especially in the world of microservices and bounded context and all that. File synchronization, again, you've probably seen this before. It's some batch job picks up a file and processes it, but that file is then put there by some other batch job, right? So they communicate via these files that are deposited in well-known, mounts, NFS or Luster or whatever. Okay, RPC, obviously we've all dealt with something like RPC. So remote procedure call, you're treating the network like an object on which you can invoke methods. And then finally messaging, and this is my favorite. This is the most natural. It gives you temporal decoupling. That is to say, you can send a message and the other thing can consume it tomorrow, even if it's not available to get the message right now. It'll be buffered and delivered eventually. And then of course it gives you spatial decoupling. I don't have to be in the same, we don't have to actually know about each other. We don't have to be in contact with each other. As long as we can send a message to the broker, it doesn't matter, where you're located. Okay. So messaging is great. And when you think about integration and Spring Integration, you think by default in terms of messaging, and it has patterns to do all those other kinds of things via messaging, because you can do everything else with messaging, but you can't do messaging with all those other styles. Like you can't simulate and get the benefits of messaging with shared databases, for example, or file systems, right? Okay, so although I just said that, one little, well, actually, to my own thought, which is you technically can get the benefits of messaging with shared database, but only in the rare case where your database supports messaging. And by that, I mean, one of my very first videos on this channel, which, by the way, I just launched earlier this year, right? It didn't exist in 2022. One of the first videos I did was using Postgres as a message queue, which you can totally do because it has a pub-sub semantics for, it's not standard SQL, it's just very, very convenient. Okay, so not Boolean, bean. Let's just, I'm going to use the Spring Integration file support. That's a pretty simple example. So we'll say integration, Spring Integration file, integrate that, bean integration flow, inbound file flow, okay, integration flow, from, and the idea is that we're going to look at data coming in from a file system. Okay, this is an inbound adapter. We're going to take events from external sources like a file system or a database or a Kafka or RabbitMQ or whatever, and you're going to adapt it into a message that Spring Integration can then process in this sort of pipes and filters functional style pipeline. So inbound file adapter equals files dot inbound adapter value, okay, home desktop inject this resource, okay, resource, okay, file resource dot get file dot auto create directory true, okay, and we want to throw an exception. I'm having trouble typing because this is the first time in front of this keyboard for any amount of time. I've been using my laptop, I've been on the road, I've been just busy. So I'm trying to remember how to use this proper keyboard again. Okay, so there's my inbound adapter, inbound file adapter. Again, no mention of security at the moment, right? Let's just make sure that things are working as we expect them to. So here's, we're gonna get a file. So we're gonna actually transform that file into a string, so new files to string transformer. And so actually the payload here is not a file, but a string. And we'll say string. What did I do wrong? Okay. Integration flow dot get object. Okay, and then I can just listen for the data here. So I'm going to print out the result. So system out got a new file whose contents are formatted payload, and I got, why is this? See, IntelliJ is trying to tell me not to use this method. Look, it's saying I could do that. I don't feel like that's better. I actually quite liked having formatted. I'm not sure why it's so averse to it, right? Because I might do the right thing one day and be a real engineer and use a logger like I should, but I'm lazy. But okay, whatever. So there's that. Headers dot for each key value system out key equals value. Okay. This is trivial. Let's just see if it works. Okay. So in theory, it's going to create a directory called in on my desktop, and then I'm going to new notification whenever a file is deposited there. How do I want to do that? Do I want to do that? How do I want to do that? So what we want to do is, I think that's not going to work. I need to have something where I can send a JOT token, don't I? Right? I need to get the message. So the idea is that we're going to send a message into Spring Integration with a JOT token in the header. How am I going to get that? Where am I going to source that from here, right? So maybe I'll use RabbitMQ. That's actually better. That'll be simpler. So let's do that. We're going to do distributed programming. This will be fun. Do I have a Docker Compose file laying around handy somewhere? Let's see here. I do. I must have. So cat code include. So actually, take all that, copy that, desktop. YAML. Okay, we don't need Postgres. I love Postgres, but we don't need it for this. Just need RabbitMQ. Okay, so we're going to send messages into RabbitMQ, which will be running on the right port. You know, so Docker. Sorry, desktop. Docker compose up. Let that do its thing. Okay, so now we need RabbitMQ instead of just using files, because I guess I could write logic to pull data out of the file and just, interpret that as the jot token, but to keep things simple and like just painfully simple, right? So that there's no doubt about what I'm doing. Let's just use RabbitMQ, which is a more realistic use case anyway. That's more in line with what I'm actually doing anyway. So we're not using the file adapter anymore. That's no longer going to work. We're going to use AMQP, aren't we? Right? AMQP. Or is it Rabbit? MQ. Probably AMQP. Let me just make sure this is loaded. Command-Shift-I. And this thing where Gradle doesn't seem to agree with me about whether it's read the files or not. Like AMQP. Remember, the old one was files, right? Oh, did you see that? Why are you trying to communicate? You're trying to tell me something. AMQP. Rabbit MQ. Rabbits. Okay. I mean, how much you want to bet it's AMQP? And if I restart this code, see, it's even got this. It's got Spring Framework AMQP. Oh, do I not have the Spring integration module for AMQP? Oh, that's probably what it is, friends. So go back here, integration, Spring integration, AMQP, Command-Shift-I. Here I was blaming IntelliJ when it's just my fault. That's typical. Okay, some point though. Spring integration, AMQP, there it is. Yeah, there it is. So go back here. Go here, it's called this one. Bring that in. Okay. Sometimes IntelliJ just, yeah, so it was partly intelligent. This file exists. I was really hoping it would just make resolving it a bit easier, but no, it has to I had to do it manually. There's some sort of weird bug there. I don't know what. It doesn't matter. Okay, so AMQP inbound adapter. We're going to connect to the default. It's going to run on localhost. The connection factory, I can just inject that here, right? For Spring RabbitMQ connection factory. And then the queue will be requests. How about we just call it requests? Okay. And we need technically a queue. So here, this is a little Spring integration, Spring AMQP business, but we'll get that done. So it's going to be a queue from Spring Framework AMQP, turn queue build new queue builder. Is it just queue new queue? Final string destination name requests. Okay, and we're going to say this destination name and in binding turn new binding. That's that destination name. There's actually a binding builder. I should be using that. Turn binding builder dot bind this dot queue to, and then an exchange, right? So plug that in. Okay. Turn exchange builder dot direct exchange. This destination name dot this build. Okay, so it's a, let's see, it's fine. So when Spring AMQP starts up, it'll find these bean definitions. It'll automatically use the AMQP protocol to create these objects in the broker because they don't exist right now, right? And we need them to exist, otherwise this code will fail. The code that depends on these things existing will fail. It's like it's the rendezvous point for our producer and consumer. Yeah. Okay, so bind it from that queue to this dot exchange with this routing key. Very important. If you would not believe how many times I have forgotten the routing key and just sat there, just no idea what to do. Let's see. I guess that's it. Okay, good. Okay, so that should be explicit. So now messages will arrive from the producer. They'll go to the server, the RabbitMQ server. They'll be greeted at the door by the exchange, which will then look at its bindings and say, oh, this binding right here tells me that if a message arrives at the door on this destination name and it has a header, a message key called this, then it's supposed to be sent to this queue. Okay, that's what we're doing here. So that's why there's 3 bits. And the nice thing about the exchange is that this is it's a strategy. So you can actually have like exchanges that do fan out or that do replication or all sorts of things, right? Okay, so and then we want the destination name. This dot destination name. Okay, so there's my inbound AMQP adapter. Rename AMQP inbound adapter or inbound AMQP adapter. I don't know, whatever. And we're going to take the data. At this point, we can just assume it's a string, and we can just print it out. So let's just see if we can get that to work. This will be the consumer. What that means is we also need a producer, don't we? So let's also make sure we have properties here for AMQP. So AMQP or Rabbit, whatever. Host is localhost. Username is, what do you say? It's a user and password. So user and password. Okay, very easy to understand. This is the consumer. Let's run it and see what we get. Nothing will happen yet because we haven't written a producer, but let's just see. Okay, so we've got the consumer. It's running. Got the authorization server. It's still running. We need to now build a producer. So this is the client, all right? Client. And so in theory, this is the bit that will send the message, but only after it's talked to the authorization server to get a JOT token. So there's 2 sides. The client gets the JOT token, stashes it in the header of the request. On the other side, the consumer, the thing that we just built, needs to verify that that JOT token is actually valid. Otherwise, it's not, they have no right using the service. Okay, so here we go. Client. Okay, there we go. Same kind of stuff, right? Really, we can copy and paste a lot of code. Don't tell them I did that. So, thank you. Okay, and then this, and in theory, this should be in both places. Not necessarily because we know that it's already been done, but in theory, this application could start before the consumer does, and that's okay because they're decoupled temporally and spatially via the broker. But whoever gets there first needs to take care of installing the requisite infrastructure for the client. And let's see. So now we've got the config. What else do we need? We need an integration flow to send data. So the question then is, how do we send, what do we use to trigger the request? I guess we could create like a simple, actually, you know what? We'll just send it manually, right? Like, okay, so we're going to say integration flow. So this is inbound, called outbound, okay? And we're going to use the connection factory. I think it requires the AMQP template actually to do the outside integration. From, I'll create a message channel and then I can just stash things into that directly. So direct channel, so outbound, okay, return message channel dot direct dot, okay, I'll say from this dot outbound handle by sending it to the AMQP outbound adapter. That's this bit right here. It's like the corollary, right? So var AMQP outbound adapter. Okay, here we go. Yes, AMQP template. I knew it. You'd think I would learn. So here we go. Put that in there. Dot. Oh, he said, what does that do? That's cool. Let me just, I have never seen that before. Let's see. Wow, that's neat. Yeah, I didn't, I guess I knew you could do that. I just didn't know there was such an easy little option. So you can actually send a message with an iterable. If the payload is an iterable of messages, then it'll send multiple messages at the same time, I guess. I don't care, but it's nice, okay? So from the channel to the outbound adapter, and dot get. Now, who sends messages into the channel? Well, that'll be me. Okay, I'm going to do this manually and grossly. Don't judge. Okay, so request turn new application runner. Okay, paste that in there. And then again, don't tell Rob Winch. This is not how you should do it. You should definitely encode these passwords and store them in HashiCorp Vault, and then use Spring Cloud Vault or Spring Data Vault or something, or even just environment variables. Don't do what I'm doing, but just so we can kind of understand what's happening. The goal is eventually, when this is working, I'm going to have a username and password here, the client ID and the client credentials from the OAuth authorization server that was set up, whatever, 10 minutes ago, and we're gonna send a message out. Okay, but for now, we don't have any security. It's just wide open. So in order to prove that everything's working, I'll inject the channel that we want, which is called outbound. I'll just put a message in there manually. So var message equals message builder dot with. Did I get the wrong one? That's another problem that people get sometimes is there's a message builder in AMQP and in Spring Integration. We want the Spring Integration variant with the payload hello world build. Okay. So there's that, and this of course is a lambda. Very nice, very nice. Okay. So if we need a time, yeah, something to distinguish it. Okay, if that works, then we should see the message here, right? I'm going to restart this on the left. We should see it print out. Oh, failed. What happened there? Okay, outbound, yes. Oh. Okay, everything's happy. Did it send the message? Oh, you know what? I just, I'm really good at this. You can tell. Forgot to set the routing key. How much you want to bet that's what it is? Set header, AMQP headers dot routing or destination. And here in the AMQP stuff, isn't it? So routing key. Just talked about doing this and warned that I should not forget this. There you go. See, it worked. Gee whiz. So there's the message, okay? So we now have an integration flow. The producer is sending messages via Spring integration to the consumer. The question is, how do we guarantee that it's secured? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Finally, all that set up, we are now very firmly in like the first hour of our thing. Oh, can I make IntelliJ dark? Yes, it's a great idea, actually. You want me to? Is that okay with everybody? I'll make it dark. Can't win. Is that okay? Everybody happy? I hope. That's I do like it dark. Normally I make it dark, but I was doing a presentation, and yeah, it was better for everybody if it was bright because there was light in the room. So I made it bright, but I forgot to revert it because it's just been a crazy few days. Okay, so anyway, producer consumer. Now what? Now we need security. And so, friends, first things first. How do we get a token? Right. Well, we need a token. So we're going to create a little code here. We need this runner. Okay, let's just call this client, class client, private final, and what do we need the channel, don't we? So we'll say message channel, right? And we're going to create a message. So void send string message. Okay, and we need. See, this is a new client. And here. And then there's a client. We use this client in here. Send hello world at. Okay. There's the runner, which is the client. The client's going to have all the logic for actually sending the message and so on. Okay. So text. Good. That's that channel. Okay, so we'll send the message that way. But we need a token, right? That's the first thing. So let's do that. We're going to make this method public. And then we'll have a method here to get the token. Private string token for string client ID, string client password. Okay. So we need to call the authorization server, which we have established is running on port 8080. So let me see. We want to do, let me think about this, var headers, new, we should be headers, yeah, so far so good. Headers dot set bearer or basic auth. Remember, we're doing basic authentication with the authorization server, passing in the client ID and the client password. Okay, and then we do body, new linked multi-value map. So the multi-value map is one of those really useful gems inside of the Spring framework that we use it all the time. It's all over the place. It's used like for headers. That's the most common case, but it's basically you give it two generic arguments, and the key is a list of v, not just v. Sorry, the value is a list of v, not just v. So even though the generic type is maybe string, what you get if you call map.get on a key is you get a list of the back. Okay, let's see what's happening over here. Okay, so go back to this. So we need to link to multi-value map body.add grant type. Okay, we're making an OAuth request, client credentials, body.add scope, and this is, what kind of permissions do you want? Remember, we specified this in the authorization server here, right? Application.properties. We said these are the scopes, right? So I'm making a request, but it has to line up with one of these values here, right? In this case, and these are arbitrary. You could put, OpenID is not arbitrary, but basically everything else. You could put like, you know, whatever, your own custom authorization, you know, authorized roles or scopes, whatever. Here, so I'm going to use user.read. Okay. What else do we want? We want to do body.add. That's it. Okay, so var entity to HTTP entity. Okay. And it's going to be the body and the headers. Neat. Entity dot. So var URL equals HTTP localhost 8080. All right. Auth 2 token. And then finally, var response equals this dot. And we need a REST template here, friends. I forgot about that. We need a REST template. I could use I'm not using Spring Framework 6.1 and Spring Boot 3.2 just yet. But if I were, I could use the REST client. But for now, I'll use our old friend, the REST template, which again, thanks to Project Loom, you know, virtual threads is not so necessarily poor a choice in terms of scaling now. It's actually, you could argue it's just fine, right? In the Java 21 world. So post for entity URL, okay, and then we need the entity itself. Voila. Did I get that wrong? We got we need the data back. What do we want? We want the JSON node class. I don't have Jax on the class path. I'm going to fix that right here. Did you know there's a Spring Boot starter JSON? Okay. Okay, bring that in. And that's great because I don't want web components. I don't want to stand up a web server, right? This is just a back office headless sort of thing. But I do need JSON support, so there's a starter for that. That's really brilliant. One of those things that the Spring Boot team has thought of and just made it really easy for us. Okay. Response. I guess that's it, right? We gotta get the data. So the var JSON dot is the response dot get body dot. Well, I guess we need to assert state response dot get status code is 200. The response needs to be 200. Okay, good. Another gem is the assert method there. We're going to get the body, and we'll get the access token, right? This is in the JSON response that we got, if everything's okay, as text. No, as text. Okay, and then we return return JWT. Good. Okay, that's our code. So that's the token. So now we want to pass that in. And again, I'm doing something terrible here. Please do not tell Rob Winch. Client ID, client secret. You need to specify this stuff. That's the constructor. Okay, and remember what we did. We know that client ID and the client secret are both CSEAI. Okay, you should store that information somewhere secret. Do not, under any circumstances, do what I'm about to do, which is to hard code it. Okay, very, very bad. But I'm not trying to demonstrate secrets protection. Okay, return. I think there's probably already a REST template in the context, but whatever. So that's this REST template. You don't have. There might already be one, so let's just get rid of that and see what happens. So we're going to call it. We're going to use the Spring property placeholder syntax. So beautiful client ID or CSEAI. Spring client ID value beautiful dot client secret CSEAI string. Okay, so that's the properties. So that syntax is find the environment property, the Spring property called beautiful.clientID and beautiful.clientSecret. If it doesn't exist, default to CS, the literal token, the literal string CSEAI, and that means I don't have to specify in the property file. I should, but or specify in the environment. I can pass this in as an environment variable. Beautiful underscore client underscore ID, and then have that override the default. But if nothing is specified, at least I have default. Okay. I think that works. What else do I need to do? What else do I need to do? Oh, I need to secure. I need to like, okay, headers. So here's a question, friends. What do I use for the header name? I don't really have a. I guess that's an HTTP header, but like, I don't know what the right header is. Okay, so, and then the this dot client ID, this dot client secret. Okay. This bar shot. Okay, good. Pass that in. No, I haven't. What is this here actually? It's just authorization. It doesn't even need to be. Let's just call it that. Fair? Is that fair? Can we write on lowercase and capital case? There we go. Okay, so we're going to say authorization. Get the token. Private. I guess I don't really need this, do I? Yeah. Secret. Get rid of that here. Okay. I think the idea was like I was gonna make this static, but I'm not doing that for the rest template. Why would I do that for the environment variable? So okay, so basic. The name could be better. Get dot token, something like that. Okay. So now let's try it again. We're not validating it, but if this works, let's see if we get this. Well, let's just print it out, I guess. So it's not got the dot token. Restart. No, see, I was wrong. I thought there'd be a REST template in there. I think I should have just gone with my initial inclination and built one, right? But I didn't. Sometimes I make mistakes. I just assume Spring Boot has read my mind and it's doing the right thing. Oh, look at that. Isn't that glorious? So there we go. Authorization equals, I got this JOT token. It's EY blah, blah, blah. And it's now over here. Now, okay, great. We've got the token. We're able to successfully conduct it across the wire from one side to the other. The client is where it needs to be. Let's focus on the server. Okay. Now this is where the fun stuff happens. This is where we start validating tokens. Let me see. Let me answer your questions here. See the nice comments. Okay, somebody says you can use the RabbitMQ UI to send the request. You're right. You're absolutely right. I can actually also create the queue and all that stuff there in the RabbitMQ console. Very good point. I just, I like the code. Hi, Josh. OAuth 2 newbie here. I have some application that has a back end, back end for front end, I think is what he's saying. Okay. And some back end Java APIs. I'm using OAuth 2 authorization code flow. Should I create a custom client and custom scopes for each API? No. Well, you could. If they have if it's a web app and there's a user context, then just, yeah, you'll create an app, you'll create a client for each API, and they'll do delegated login, so they actually have to enter their username and password and all that stuff in the authorization server. Okay. Yeah, back end for front end. Yeah, exactly. Great question. Okay, so now here, friends. Let's see. Okay. Go back here. Okay, so now we have to secure this integration flow. And the way we do that is by changing the inbound channel, right? The channel that on which we consume the messages. So what we're doing here is we've got this flow, and we're just taking the data directly from the AMQP, and we're sending it into the processing code flow, right? But what we want to do is actually, we want to decouple our business logic from the thing that originates the message from RabbitMQ. And the way you do that is by by introducing channels, right? Message channel. And message channels are the thing that you can secure, right? By adding filters. So let's say this is a whatever inbound, okay? Return message channel dot direct. So this is direct channel spec. Okay. So I'm going to say from there, then channel is inbound. Okay. And then I'll have another flow here called integration flow, logging inbound flow. Okay. Return integration flow dot from this dot inbound channel, and then it's that bit right there, and then dot get. Okay, so now what we've done, it's not that much, but what we've done is we've decoupled how the messages end up in this processing. We're not doing anything particularly interesting here, but imagine we were. Imagine we were like, whatever, fulfilling orders or adding customers to a database or doing some sort of job that has to happen or whatever. I don't know, it doesn't matter, right? By the way, you can also kick off a Spring Batch job from here, right? It's in this logic that you can actually do interesting things. But for now, we're just logging the data, okay? But imagine this is this is the reason, the raison d'etre for this particular microservice. The reason that we have this logic separate is now we can actually just inject the channel somewhere else, just like we did in the client, right? I'm using the channel directly, and I'm using it to send off messages. I create a message, I stash it in the channel, and it gets sent off into the integration flow, which does the AMQP stuff, sends it off to RabbitMQ, and then it arrives over here on the other side. So we're going to do the same thing on the inbound. We're going to take the message directly out of RabbitMQ, stuff it in the channel, and then whatever happens after that, we don't care, right? But before it can go beyond that channel, we want to validate it. We want to make sure it's a valid, authenticated, and possibly authorized message. Okay, and this is where sort of we have to have a little bit of configuration. So where's our channels? Down here somewhere. There we go. Here's our channel. Okay, so this isn't going to be this is okay. This is So we return message channels dot direct and dot interceptors. Okay, so the first thing is the new data. We need think about what's going to happen, right? We're going to have a channel. We're going to have a message with an HTTP with an authorization header in it. Something needs to take that thing and install it as a Spring security context, as an authenticated principal. And there's even a security context holder, right? This is not new, I think, if you know Spring Security. But basically, this mechanism, it's been there since the very beginning of Spring Security. But basically, you store the data about the current message and the current pipeline and the current web request and the current user, right, in a thread local. And then all the filter codes, all the other code that does authentication based on that will know where to look for it. They can just go to this well-known thread local and get the current authenticated user. But something needs to first turn it into an authenticated principal, okay? So we need to write that, right? So let's see, we're gonna write an interceptor here. And this is the fun part. This is where things get interesting. So static class JWT authentication interceptor implements channel interceptor. Okay, I'm gonna put that in here, new dot authentication interceptor. And then the job of this thing will be to turn the, to make sure that we have a valid user by validating the JOT token and then turning that JOT token into some notion of the identity, right? Maybe you have a database full of, your business domains users or whatever, and you can use the principal name from the JOT token to look up that user, whatever, whatever context you want to be there by having that token. This is the chance to connect those two, right? You look at the principal, you say, is this token validated? If so, here's the customer that we're processing, whose files we're processing or whatever, right? We'll get to that in a second. That has to be written, but it'll come. We'll work on that in a bit. And then other filters. We have other interceptors. Remember, the job here, the first interceptor, is to install an authenticated principal, and then to sort of make that a header in the request chain. Okay. But otherwise, once that's there, something needs to actually install that in Spring Security. So that's this new thing, right? New security context channel interceptor. And here's where we have our header name. So private final string authorization header name equals authorization. Okay. So this dot authorization header name. Okay, authentication header, very good. And then new authorization channel interceptor. And then this is authenticated. So this is, again, a matter of taste, right? Authenticated authorization manager. This part, dot authenticated. Okay, so this part is, this filter will stop requests. Well, first of all, this is the thing that looks at our custom thing. This is our business logic. It's up to us to figure out what this means. We're going to take a random message and somehow inform Spring Security that there's an authenticated user somehow, right? That's up to us. We have to know where to look for the JOT token in the header or the payload or the body or whatever, and put it into a place that downstream filters, including this one, can find it. And we're going to put it in this authorization header. So actually, I should inject that here, right? So private final string authorization header name. Okay, like that. We'll inject that into the constructor. Add this, voila. So both of them will get the same header. This is going to put the authenticated user from the dot string into the header, which this will then know to look for, right? This thing is going to obtain the current authentication from the specified headers, right? And what's it going to do? It's going to put it in the security context, right? Remember I told you have to put it in the security context holder? Well, there's a strategy that you need to do. There's different strategies for security context holding. And so this thing has, this is going to do the right thing. This is Rob Winch's code, lead of Spring Security. So I trust that to do the right thing. And then once that's in the right place, then we have this other interceptor that's going to look at the current authenticated user. It's going to pull down that authenticated user. And then if it's not authenticated, it'll stop the message. If it is authenticated, it'll allow the message to go through. But the kind of authentication is kind of up to you. Here, I'm just saying, all I'm asking is that the user be valid, right? That the user be who it says it is, right? As opposed to have an authorization, right? So there's other ones you can use. I can do fully authenticated. I can do anonymous. I can do whatever. You can create your own as well. This is just a very simple class, so you can create your own right here. Just by these are fully authenticated authorization strategy. Remember me, anonymous. If you want to do something yourself, you can. Well, you can see the code here. It's not very difficult. It's saying, given the authentication, if it's not null and it's anonymous and is authenticated, okay, great. Is granted. There's a Boolean class there that you can use, a Boolean method to say, does this have the correct authorities, etc. But all I'm doing is I'm saying it has to be authenticated. That's all. I don't care if it has the right scopes, the right authorized roles or authorities, rather, granted authorities. Okay, it's a lot, right? I know it's a lot, but it's fine. We're basically almost done, right? So the last thing that we need here, friends, what do we need to do? We need to write the code with this channel interceptor. And this is a Spring integration convenience API. There's a bunch of callbacks here. We're going to use the pre-send. So we're going to send the message, but it's going to either have a valid user or not, okay? And this is going to be the first interceptor. So it's going to then send it to the next interceptor, which is going to look for the authenticated user, and then it's going to try and stash that in the security context holder, and then it's going to try and validate the message. So I'm going to send this message out one way or another with the token in the headers or not, and the other things downstream will fail the pipeline, okay? Our job is not to do the authentication. Our job here is just to construct a valid message, okay? So r dot equals this equals message dot get headers dot get, and then this dot authorization. Okay. Name. Okay, that's the dot token. I want to say, first of all, this should have text, has text. Okay. But it's empty. Should not be. I don't think it'll happen, but you know, just in case. Oh, yeah. Oh, is it not? Okay, there you go. Good. And then we want to say, need the authentication provider. What's that going to do? Oh, we need a JOT authentication provider. So private file JOT authentication provider. This is the bit that actually unpacks a JOT for us. We're going to turn the string into something that we can use. We need to wire that up. Okay, so JOT authentication provider. We need to create this bean over here. Forgot about this thing right here. Okay. And if we were using the resource server stuff, this would already do the right thing. What about the JOT decoder? Do I have to create that myself? I don't know. I think Spring Security has this for us. I guess we'll find out here pretty quick, huh? Okay. Okay. So we use the authentication provider, and we say this dot authenticate new error token authentication. That's this. Okay. We got an authentication. Okay, we got that. And now what do we want to do? We want to say if authentication is not equal to null and authentication is authenticated, right? Then we can actually we can load the user, right? So like, how do we do that? We can have our own, again, I could have a custom domain concept, like the user has to, the token has to have a username, a principal name that lines up with some user in my database and in my business logic, right? Maybe I have the customer or whatever. So I'm going to look at that current token and load the user, aren't I? How's that going to work, actually? How does that work? Yeah, that's basically the idea, right? So okay, so we want to create a. I guess I could have a dummy. I mean, I don't really. So record user string username, right? Okay, and then whatever. Just imagine I've got that. So I'm gonna var user equals new user, passing in authentication.get name. Okay, there we go. To look this up in SQL DB for business logic purposes. Okay, then we get, now that we've got the user, we want the username and password authentication. So username, password authentication token dot authenticated. The user is the thing that we're going to store there. Null for the credentials and authority utils. We'll just use that to create some defaults. No authorities. And return the message. So return message builder dot with payload. And the payload, well, actually no, from the message, we're going to take the existing message here, set header, and the header is going to be, we're going to override it. So coming into this filter, the authorization header had a string, the JOT token. When it leaves this filter, it's going to leave with a new message, message in, message out. We're going to transform the message and send a new message out. And now everything downstream will know to look in that header for an authenticated authentication. That's this thing right here, the UPT. Okay. That's this. If you look at this, that's this object right here. This has been in Spring Security since the very beginning. It's been, and it extends this Java Security Principal API, right? Which has, get name. That's what the important part is, right? So we're going to use that. Let's see, so UPT. Okay. Build. All right? So we return that message. Otherwise, we say message channel from message set header this dot blah null dot build. Okay, pretty straightforward. I think that's the only custom code we really had to write. Right, seems okay. Let's see, what is this? This is the message channel inbound. Okay. Okay. I think that'll work. We should try it. Okay. And then I guess so down at the end of the pipeline, what happens? Well, we have a string. We're still expecting the payload to be a string. Let me check this channel here, message channel inbound. Okay. Oh, it didn't compile, right? Okay. Try again. Why not? Something I said. Oh, I have to define the JOT decoder. Okay. I was hoping not. I think I just used the Nimbus one, right? Nimbus JOT decoder. And the issuer location, my friends, is the URL of the OAuth authorization server that it can use to validate, right? And in a normal resource server setup, you'd specify that in a property. So Spring Security Authorization Issuer is HTTPS, not S. In this case, it's not S. It's my local machine, right? Localhost 8080 / I think I did actually. So Spring Security, OAuth has a protocol where, given the issuer URI, the client can then figure out all the other relative URLs. So we can just pass that in. And I don't have to use this property because we're not actually we're not using the resource server, but it's consistent. So I'll just do that because why not? That's where people would expect to put that. Whoops. I'm going to type Spring issuer URI. Okay. And what's the issue now? Hey, okay, that feels better. Okay, so now we have a dot decoder. Let's try this again. Failed. Unable to resolve configuration with a provider. HTTP localhost 8080. I don't know. There's definitely an authorization server here. Oh, wait, what? What did I do wrong? When in doubt, cheat. Okay. Okay, there's got to be this one, JOT decoder. Where's the JOT decoder itself being created? Do I not do it correctly somewhere? Job configuration. Oh. How much do you want to bet it's that last bit right there, the dot authentication converter? How much do you want to bet? Try again. Oh, okay, wait. With issuer location. Shot decoder. It's basically exactly what I just had, right? Why is it not? Is that server not running? Where is the server? On which port is this? And the default local, sort of like using default 8080, right? So, well, what's this? Okay. Okay, a couple things. First of all, I just realized one other thing I might have forgotten. Just not related to that, but separate and also equally important. I think I probably forgot to set the content type. Okay. Okay, I know I forgot that. Very important not to forget that. Okay, so let's see. Why can't this resolve the issue or URI though? That's my real question. Let's see here, chat. Okay, so we're so close. We're so close. URL OAuth 2 token. Localhost 8080. What do I have for that over here, actually? On the one example where I am using this. Resources, application properties. Yeah. Looks like it's there. So, do I have anything in the auth server of mine? All this stuff is open source, friends. You can have a look if you like. It's my slightly more hardened distribution. Okay, so we've got. Why do I have this in the? Okay, wait. I need this in the authorization server itself. That's weird, but okay. No. How bizarre. It actually works on that. And so, okay, wait a minute. Get issuer, find usages, properties. to authorization server. Is there some dependency that's in this, but that I don't have in the other one? So I've got this is the authorization API. It clearly already has the web support, obviously, but let's just make sure. Okay. And then we go to the client. That's nice. Do I have, oh, is it possible I've got the CSRF support stymieing my attempts to get the, oh, that's probably what it is. Let's try this. So go here to the authorization server, enable all that, enable a security filter chain. Okay. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm saying restart that. Well, okay, let me think about this. This didn't buy me anything, did it? Do I want the login page though? Actually, that's not. If I go to localhost, what I get? Localhost 8080. I get that. That's better than nothing. How to tell if the issuer URI is working. Well-known OpenID configuration. That's what I'm looking for. Localhost 8080. It's all there. I don't get it. Why is this having trouble? So is it that I have a string in my properties or something like that here? Looks legit, right? Like it's just not the right host and port. It's definitely the right host and port. 27. Okay. With issue location. Okay, so okay. Yeah, it's this. I'm getting this error right here. Why? Why is it doing that? So debug. Oh, it never even gets that far. Okay. So we go down to here. The URI is, do I actually need to specify the full URI? Is that all I have to do? Step over, request. Okay. So the URI is HTTP. Okay, let's take this, copy this text. Real valid URL. Okay, so we know that that valid URL exists. And what? Now what? It's going to look for the response. It's going to get back a parameterized type reference of a map of string of objects when it makes the request. So if we go to the next line, oh, really? Why? Oh, it doesn't have a map. It doesn't have a converter. Why is that? Is it because we don't have the JSON stuff here? I'll bet you that's what it is, my friends. Spring Boot starter. Wait, go back here. What do you want to bet? How much you want to bet? This is it. Sometimes I'm too smart by half. Okay, so next. Yeah, seems fine. Nope. Okay, no problem. This is fine. Different host import. So local host. Start that. Okay, so that worked. So now we go back here. Do I need this? I don't know if I needed that. Let's just restart. I don't think I did need it. Okay, good. Okay, so we go back to this. Go back to that. And that's the consumer. What about the producer, right? Here's the client. Let's restart the client. Send a message. Got a new file whose contents are hello world, right? And you can see we've got the authenticated user, etc. Great. Okay, good. Now, what happens if, how do I prove this doesn't work? I guess that's the real question. So we know it worked. We know the message got routed correctly, right? But only if we had a valid token. So what if we change the criteria here to be, I don't know, what is this? Is this more strict? Maybe. And go back to this. Yeah, it matches both actually because it's fully authenticated. Well, either way, it works. I just don't know how to prove to you that it doesn't work because it'll never send a message. Oh, actually, that's true. We could send in like some nonsense, right? That would just fail. So how would I do that easily? Well, either way, you can see the token. There you go. Actually, that does work. Authorization, username, password authentication token. We can see the principal, the username equals CSEAI. So we're able to validate. We have a valid token with the details that we want to be assigned to it in the request, and we can do things to stop messaging unless it's authenticated, right? And that's it, basically. I mean, it's not, it wasn't like, I don't think it's that many moving parts. I think we took a little longer because I got, first of all, we had to reintroduce the authorization server. I love this thing. I love this thing so much. And this is just one user. Again, I'm not using a web. We saw earlier you can make this work for web endpoints and all that. Great, very simple. Actually, I don't know if I needed any of this. Let me get rid of that and restart this whole flow one more time just to make sure. And we also didn't try removing that either. So that's the client. Let's send a new message to the consumer. Okay, it's happy. Okay, what if I go here now and delete that? Restart, does that break anything? Oh, it looks like it created a default user, which we're never going to use. So I'll restart that. Here's the client, restart this. That's so cool. So yeah, there you go. The authorization server, really, it just needs public static void main and some properties to define the user. Okay, that's it, the client. And once we have that, that just exists out there in the ether, and our client that's going to send a message into Spring integration is responsible for getting the JOT token, which you can see is right here. That's the magic incantation to correctly request a token from the IDP. And then we use that to then send the message via RabbitMQ, right? So it's got a header. By the way, like I'm doing stupid things here. Like the payload is just text. I should obviously use Spring Security, and you should do things like encryption, right? You want to hash the value so that you can read it on the other side, right? Not password encoding, but encryptors, right? Like you can use Spring Security encryptors whatever standard. So given a salt and some text, you'll get a text encryptor, and a password. You get a text encryptor that will then encrypt values for you. And you can then decrypt them, give them the same thing on the other side, right? So if I do this, you shouldn't do null. It won't work if you do that, but you can put encrypt and decrypt, right? So you should use that for the messages that you're sending over the wire as well. That way it's, you've got a JOT token, and you've got the payload, which is completely encrypted. That's what you should do, but I didn't do that because I'm lazy. But you get the idea, right? This is really powerful now. Now I can have, and this is a Spring integration flow, pretty easy to understand conceptually what's happening here. Client sends a request, back office code, which doesn't have a web endpoint, gets the request and processes it. But imagine now doing a batch job, right? Spring batch instead. It's just really, really powerful, Let's see here. Stop sharing my screen. Yeah. Yeah, you knew what it was. Thanks, Al. Thanks for. I should have just looked at the chat. Yeah, it was actually a missing dependency. It was the stupid JSON support, and I even knew to bring it in. Isn't that just the way? I even remembered to bring it into the other one. It's just this. It's just in this client I forgot to bring it in. So, in the consumer I forgot to bring it in, and it's not working. I'll put this code as usual on GitHub.com, Coffee Software Show. I think we did a good thing here, my friends. I really wanted to get this out because it was just such a boon to get a solution for this. I feel empowered now. I can use the authorization server for all my microservices. As I go back and touch some of these code bases, as I revisit them for whatever reason, I'm making a point of tearing out the bespoke username and password authentication mechanism that I no doubt have in each of them, and replacing it with much simpler integration with the authorization server. And so I've already done that now for 3 different services. It's very satisfying. You're just deleting code. Life gets easier, and it's a better result. It's more secure, So I love it. I love the authorization server so much. It's just such and it's nice to have a unified notion of JLong, like who's that user across all these different services. There's only one place that actually knows the answer. It's the authorization server. It's durable. It's got persistence. It's secure. That's what I want. And don't get me wrong, friends. What I just showed you, everything I just showed you, of course you could use Okta or Auth0 or Keycloak. It's the same thing. If you're not using authorization server, which some people aren't, then everything else I showed you is exactly the same. You just swap out the issuer URI for the actual authorization server. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. Hope you got something out of it. I'll put the code on GitHub, like I said. Have a great day, and maybe I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.